Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at a fairly similar rune deck to last time. This time instead of running Altar Plane we are running Omen of Truth. Very solid choice. I ended up crafting an extra one of him so I could actually at least try this deck out, as I did only have one, so definitely pushed to get this deck out because I thought it would be at least worthwhile to check out. And we are including, of course, Knowledge Seeker, since we are aiming also at the Prophetess of Creation in this variation. You can also, of course, run them fairly well in Prince of Darkness decks, things like that are quite actually good. Really want to test a lot of variations of Rune. There are so many interesting cards that you can mess around with, just with the new couple of cards alone. Just with Knowledge Seeker and Solomon, those two cards really can push so many different archetypes for Rune that it's quite impressive overall, and it really does shock me a little bit. So hopefully this will be interesting enough, so we're going to get right into it and check it out. So, like last game, the pretty much entire ladder is Rune at the moment. Not a shock at all. I mean, it's one of the more powerful and interesting deck types right now, and not really a shock that that's the one that's popping up the most, but it does make making content a lot harder. I mean, the only two matches that I had that were even decent overall to actually show off, that weren't just either a cakewalk or not a cakewalk, were really both Rune, and that's a little disappointing. But that's what happens when 9 out of 10 games have turned into RuneCraft matches. In particular, mirror matches, which become a nightmare. So they went for Solomon, early turn 2 play, not a bad one. Typically people will do that when they're playing a Prince of Darkness one over what I'm playing here, since they can take advantage of course, Solomon's initial effect to get Prince of Darkness out as early as possible, actually allowing it to possibly compete with Dragon, which is actually very impressive. And of course, they just went for the double hit. Not a shock. I mean, we don't really have a way to deal with this very effectively yet, although this will definitely make it easier with Tetra. Tetra's definitely going to have the edge here. So we should just be able to wipe these out thanks to Delta Cannon and get as much boost as we can going for this turn. It is a pity I couldn't get Solomon, but sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles with this sort of deck. And I usually don't focus too much on getting Prophetess out like as soon as possible. Usually that's just kind of an added bonus when it comes out, since we are only running the single one of it, and this deck actually curves very nicely with its spell burst effects, meaning you can actually play things like, of course, Fate's Hand for 0 and get your 5 cost card out that way, so it is a really effective way to do things. And of course, Tetra again, still a great card, does a wonderful job no matter when I need her. In this deck in particular, especially since it gives you 2 spells really cheaply, and you get the extra play point, even if we did end up burning one due to overflow, but I wasn't too worried, since we have such a solid hand at the moment. And there's their own Tetra. Not too much of a shock. I mean, RuneCraft right now, nearly every deck is running Tetra to some degree. So now we just need to be able to wipe this out though as effectively as possible, and Wind Blast for 8 damage is actually going to be more than enough. Plus it will free us up some space, and we can finally declutter our hand a little bit with these little 1-drops, and also get some spell boosting going, so why not? Prince of Prophetess. To be expected, as I said, they want to get it out as early as possible, and turn 7 is a pretty optimal turn to do that. Luckily, Omen of Truth is going to pretty much seal this part of the game for us, where we can really boost it up, get it out, and deal 4 damage to face. Plus now, nearly every card in our deck will have an edge when it comes out. So I'm looking forward to that one. Edict of Truth, I considered running that card. It's not necessarily bad, it's just a little awkward. Now, opponent's going for whatever they really can, I think, at the moment. So we're going to have to deal with this. I did decide Truth's Adjudication was the play. And the dealing with Tetra was the immediate issue, along with, of course, the 4-3. I think that was definitely the right move, as far as our current board goes. Oh, interesting. So an 8-8 to deal with now. Luckily that was top deck Fiery Embrace. I would have probably just went for Truce and tried to block the damage after, of course, missling for whatever else I could have got. So we probably would have been fine either way. It's just this was definitely the best way to secure whatever we wanted. Infernal Gaze, making it harder thanks to boosting my Fiery Embrace up. Not that they've gave me many targets that I'd want to hit with it. Now, I made a slight misplay. I thought Knowledge Seeker was going to discard my hand, but then I remembered, oh no, it's an Earthright only, so I probably could have done this without having to play it, but it does at least allow me to get a board out, which is actually okay. And I can actually get a free Zealot. That's actually another good part once you get Rayo out. It's pretty easy to use Solomon and just play off it to get free Zealots. They're usually the most common thing I pull. Plus, that actually worked out perfectly because it finally got our Prophetess of Creation out, so I was only short that 10 drop card at that point pretty much, so being able to get the 10 and 9 drop made it very easy to just clear the end of that game. For the next match we are going to be going up against Rune again. No shock there. Rune, very popular, still very powerful, and does a wonderful job, so I'm still reasonably impressed by how that will go. Since as long as we don't come up with a super mirror match, we should be pretty okay. That's really the only thing I worry about, is two heavier mirror matches. But we should be able to mitigate it a little bit.
Impressive technology.
So early 2-drops getting stuff down. We don't have a way to deal with Aiolon or Gloria here, so I'm a little disappointed by that. But at least we can get a cheaper Solomon play going early. Even if we're not going to get the easy spell boost, I probably honestly should have just went Solomon and played it on 6. That probably would have gave me just as much advantage, really, so I wouldn't have had to worry at all. And from here, our own Eleanor. Why not? It's going to boost up the Seal of Solomon by 3 and allow us to actually go 4 total with Splendor. Well, Splendid anyway. More than enough to help us secure a decent seal as soon as we can. Their Tetra play, definitely extremely solid. If I was going to play anything, Tetra would definitely be the way to go. Although I probably would have healed, I wouldn't have left it up as just a 5-1 myself. But to each their own at this point. So Tetra Sapphire Rebel with a Delta Cannon. This is how I probably would have played it initially, at least. We can keep a nice healthy Tetra and set ourselves up for some really nice spell boosting. And they go back-to-back Tetras. Definitely a good play. Especially with that Fiery Embrace. Wow, nice and impressive for sure. So we go for our Fate's Hand, because why wouldn't you at this point? I also take the Splendor. Unfortunately, we end up with both Rayos in our hand next to Fates, so the only thing I'll get out of it was a free Tetra. Probably should have actually held off and got something better and bigger out of it. But Tetra, I mean, fills out our curve nicely. We're going to get to kill this off. Set our Fate's Hands up basically for free at this point. And really have a quite solid game plan. So there's our own Omen of Truth. This time though, they're throwing an Evo, at least Fiery Embrace will be an instant clear on that. Causing us pretty much zero problem in the short term. It's only long term does he become an issue. But luckily we're going to counter that with our own Omen. Which they are forced to remove. If they don't remove our Omen now, they could be taking a quite large chunk of damage. They go for Ritual though, with a few more spell plays, along with the Kindness play to throw more things in the deck. Interesting. So, Omen of Truth myself. Decided double Omen of Truth, that gives us a spell boost of 18. Plus I could still go for massive amount of damage. Not quite enough to go for lethal, pretty much no matter what. I would have been short by at least, I think, 3, but this ended up working out pretty fine to get the game. So overall this deck performed reasonably well. It wasn't crazy good, but it was definitely middle of the road. Some more probably fine tuning on my end, messing around with some stuff and just getting used to it in general would definitely help me out. I think I definitely want to play that Cocytus one though, so that definitely expect that to be within the next few days, since that's a video that would probably do very well as far as playability goes, and definitely is right up my alley as interesting deck ideas. So if you guys did enjoy this video and want to see more like this, hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Until next time guys, see ya.